Hi, welcome. In this video, we're going to see a simple demonstration of the Ansible framework. We're going to see the installation instruction for Ansible for your particular flavor of management device. We're going to see an example of inventory, and obviously we're going to execute a playbook to see how the playbook is run. The installation instruction could be found on the Ansible documentation. The URL will be included in the corresponding resource file for the course. But basically, you just go on to the Ansible documentation at docs.ansible.com and pick the flavor of your management machine. For me, it's Ubuntu 16.4 long-term support. So I just click on Ubuntu, and it's pretty straightforward installation. You basically do the update, you add the repository to your list, and you just do the apt-get install Ansible. Very straightforward. For my lab, I'm using the viral simulation or emulation framework to construct virtual devices. I have two iOS devices, which on the management, I'm using the Share Flat network, which by default was the VMnet1 as 172.16.1/24 network. And I'm hard coding, and my apology for the font, but I'll just read it out. So I'm specifying that for the device, I'm hard coding the management IP to be 172.16.1.75 and 1.76. And as you can see, the devices are already launched and running. And for this section, and for the whole course for that matter, I have constructed a Ubuntu host, a VM Ubuntu host that has two interfaces, with one interface that was my default gateway going out on my normal network. And the second interface would be the more important for our application, was the interface that also connected to the 172.16.1 network, which allow me to have a reachability to these devices. So case in point, I have the ENS34 network that is 172.16.1.10. And let me test the reachability real quick. 172.16.1.75 and 76. So let me SSH to the device. By default, Viral gave me an administrative user of Cisco. So let me 172.16.1.75. And I could see the Cisco is running IOSV, and for our lab, we're going to use a Ansible playbook to add a new test access list. And so let me just show IP access list, and you can see there's no IP access list right now. And I'm going to skip IOSV2 just because it's redundant and it doesn't really add any more value but in your scenario, when you're constructing your playbook, you want to make sure you have reachability to all the devices that you want to manage, at least the first few, that to give you more confidence that you have reachability. So as we mentioned before, if you don't have any devices to manage, there's no point in having a playbook, right? So in the host file is where we specify the devices. And in this case, I've specified a group of devices, which I call the IOSV devices. And I have assigned a variable that is applicable to essentially both of the devices in that group, with the username of Cisco and the password Cisco, both in the host file. So as mentioned before, you have a YAML format playbook, which starts with the 3 dashes on the top. And this whole thing is called a playbook. Each playbook contains various plays. And in this case, I have one play that is just to configure the iOS devices, where I specify the host, where I specify the connection to be local, which means I would do the necessary bits. And this is similar to all the networking devices up to Ansible 2.4, that I'm using the connection local, which is, do whatever I needed to do locally, and then SSH to the device to make the changes, which also makes the gather facts to be false, because if you use yes, by default is yes, that you're just gathering the facts for your local devices. As mentioned before, you could have various locations for your variables. And your variable in this case, I also specify the CLIs. Essentially, I'm saying, hey, the host, and these are the way that you specify this is a variable, very similar to the Jinja 2 convention, where I'm just saying, hey, rotate through your Ansible host and using the variable username, which if you remember was Cisco, both username and password. And under the task, you could have multiple tasks. Each tasks will use either one or more modules. That's either vendor contributed or is something that you wrote or just comes with Ansible. In this case, I'm using the iOS config module that to config 2 lines of access list to extended access list using this provider that has in a variable of CLI provider. And the second task would be just to show the output that I have constructed. So let's run this playbook real quick. If I just specify the host and using the YAML file as my playbook. As you can see, the play corresponds to what I wrote down under the name section for running this playbook. And this is more verbose than you would normally see, only because I chose to show output. See, the first task of configuring fairly lean, it just shows, hey, it's changed. It's showing the change that was returned from the device. And if I SSH the device again, and looking at the access list, and I could see now I have new access list that's being configured. So in this video, we saw a very simple demonstration of Ansible. Obviously, this Ansible is a full feature framework. You could manage servers and devices, as well as various networking devices and orchestration of different tasks. So they have a ton of other features such as conditionals, loops, templates, groups, and host variables. Even has security features such as Vault, and have consolidation features for Ansible roles. And all of these are very powerful features that we don't have time to look at. However, hopefully you will have some time and you find it interesting and you can invest more time into looking at Ansible. In the next video, we're going to look at automate the changes using the Paramiko package.